Hi, my name is Olu Abraham. I'm the founder and CEO of Kids in Tech. Words of Wisdom is a series that brings senior leaders to small groups of professionals for conversations about incredible milestones that they have observed in their career. We are very lucky to have with us today Nancy Huntington-Stagger, the president and CEO of Eastern Bay Foundation. She leads Eastern's philanthropy, volunteerism, programming, and civic advocacy. She's dedicated to creating and supporting robust programming to celebrate and assist our communities, encouraging colleagues to volunteer with skills with nonprofit organizations, addressing community needs, as well as serving as a strong advocate for economic inclusion, mobility, and other social justice issues aimed at creating a better, fairer, and more sustainable world. Ms. Stagger has received numerous awards for her leadership, recently from the Commonwealth Institute as the top 100 women-led CEOs in Massachusetts, and another from the Boston Business Journal with Leaders in Diversity Award for Corporate Social Responsibility, and many more. Nancy, we're so grateful to have you with us here today, and I'm really excited about our conversation. Should we get into it?
I am too. Can you hear me if I just talk without mic? I'm casting it back and forth.
Yeah, you know, this COVID.
I didn't think of that, but yeah, you're right. So I have to say, just at the outset, that I'm also really interested in science. If I didn't do what I was doing now, I would have been a marine botanist. So I definitely feel that. And also, my daughter is a 7th grade science teacher up in Ipswich. And she's that crazy science teacher that used to jump around and do all the experiments. From her lips, she says science should be done, not taught. So,
That's right. So with that being said, Nancy, can you tell us a little bit more about your journey in becoming president and CEO of Eastern Foundation?
well, so I've been working for over 40 years, so I'm not going to go through every step. My journey really started at the kitchen table, like so many of us. My mom and dad were the first in their families to go to college. They were both professionals and both very active in our community. Cared a lot about how our town was developing, and I grew up on Long Island. Anybody here from New York? One of us, right? So you and I. But they were very involved in the community. They were very active in nonprofits, as well as being, professionals with a full-time job and 2 kids at home. So I admired that, and I saw the benefit of their efforts. They spent a lot of their own mental energy, their time, helping to make our community better. And my dad was also an engineering manager from an aerospace. I'm from Long Island, you know that. And so he talked a lot about what it was like to manage in that environment. And I saw how much he cared about people who were working with him. And also heard stories about his boss. Maybe didn't work hard as much as he did, And so learned both some good things and some things to avoid. And in doing that, that really sparked my desire to be involved in community, but also help to build and shape community, whether that's inside a company or out in my geographic community or across communities in our area. And so I went to school. I was one of those weird people. I knew exactly where I wanted to go, what I wanted to major in. My kids neither one of them knew. And I was very lucky to get in and study labor relations, study people working with each other. And from there, I was very fortunate to get a job. Well, I should back up and say my first job was as a waitress. How many people here who are a waitress or a waiter and something like that? Great. Tough job. Thank you for all our servers tonight. Tough job being with the public. You never know what you're going to get. But that was a great life experience for me. But then fast forward, my first job out of school was actually in Tampa, Florida. Anybody from Florida? Anybody want to live in Florida? Okay, good. All right. A lot of skiers in the room now. But it was working, kind of the very early HR analyst kind of role, bottom of the rung, but really got a chance to see what the machinations of human resources were. How do companies look at their people? Do they think of them as human capital, which is kind of a buzzword these days? Well, we're not capital. We're people. And how do we keep that at the core of our mind? And so then I had several other jobs along the way. One of which was closing down a plant in New Hampshire. So if you've ever been laid off or you've ever been in a situation where your company was having massive layoffs, you know how what a downer that is, how hard that is. And my job was to try and help people to get through that. So before there was a thing called outplacement assistance, I went through and met with every single one of the people being affected, helped them write their resume. And then I had a resume book, physical, because there was no internet. Yes, it's been a long time. And I brought that book to all the large area employers, encouraging them to meet with my people and do the things to help them to bridge to the next thing. And that's part of that community building that we're talking about. But it's not just a job. And we're talking at dinner about it's not just a job. You do this even if you didn't get paid. But we need to get paid, right? But you're in a good place if you're doing something that you would do even if you didn't get paid. Just make sure you get paid fairly. And so that was a rough job, right? Having to do that. But that led me to an opportunity to do human resources internationally. And I never would have had that opportunity if I hadn't been doing these other things. And so I flew internationally and was the HR regional director for what was then Bank of Boston. Been around more than about 30 years. You heard that? If you haven't, yeah, never mind. And that was great. I got to travel internationally. It was really exciting, except it turns out when you work internationally, you see a lot of hotels and you see a lot of office buildings. Not a lot of us. But it was good that I had that experience because that was my only banking experience, which gave me a chance to work at Eastern Bank. And so I joined Eastern 28 years ago. And I was going to stay for a year, maybe two. How many people actually think they're going to stay 28 years? Right? If you think that, you're lying. You're lying to yourself, at least. But what happened for me was I kept getting opportunities, and I kept learning and growing over that entire time. And I kind of feel like for all my Eastern Bank buddies here tonight, thank you for coming. But it was really, it was because it was a small company, it was growing. There were so many different things I could do. And my managers saw in me the opportunity to do things outside of HR, which is what my day job was. And that made things much more interesting. At one point, the CEO came to me and said, there's too much bickering about the foundation. I've never done anything in philanthropy other than make donations, right? And doing community service, volunteering, that kind of thing. I had just never spent any time thinking about philanthropy in the process of philanthropy. But I had done a lot of volunteer work. And he came to me, and he's Stanley House, and he said, look, I want, you're Switzerland, right? You're not bickering, you're not in the fray of all this. You're just going to do what we need done at the foundation. So I'm going to have you do that in addition to HR, which is great. Why? Why did I care about it? Well, I've been a volunteer, so that. But also, it redefined what community meant in my eyes. in my mind, in HR, I was trying to build a community, or whatever setting I was in, internationally, domestically, in New York, in Tampa, in New Hampshire. I was always trying to build a community for our people, so that they felt that they wanted to be here. That this was a great place to work, in the truest sense, the authentic sense, not the Busted Globe sense. No offense to Busted Globe. Linda, if you're listening, you know, I love the Busted Globe. But you know what I mean? It's not doing it because you're trying to get a medal, or you're trying to get an honor, or you're trying to be noticed, but because you want your people to feel that way. And then so that's always been how I felt. That's how I feel about the team, that's how I feel about Eastern, and that's how you guys feel. And when I got the opportunity to get into philanthropy, it gave me an opportunity to kind of see community in a much different way. And you don't have as much control in philanthropy, in building community as you do within a company, but you can have an impact and you can see it.
Can you elaborate more on that? You made that comment. Why don't you have control?
Because the communities are so much bigger, and there's so many other forces that are operating that you can do things, but you have to do them with so many more people. You have to have so many more partners in that, and that's fine. And I feel like I do have an impact. I think my team has a great impact in our communities, and I'm very proud of the work we're doing. But we're not moving fast enough. This is me, right? We're not moving fast enough in our communities to do the things that need to be done to change the systemic, to change the system in ways that really does build equity. It really does make a difference in everybody's lives, and instead of just one population by other populations.
You were talking, I was struck by your story. You talked a lot about volunteerism as a kid. You talked a lot about community engagement, how your parents were role models for you. So can you talk a little bit more about, you basically ran the foundation from the ground up. So you did, it was like a startup. It was a startup. So
It's been a startup twice.
Twice?
How about that? Yeah. The first startup was, the foundation is 29 years old in 2 weeks. And so when I started the foundation, it was 2001. And we had very little money. And for anybody who's worked in a really small nonprofit, you know what that's like, right? You got a little bit of money, you got to all come together, figure out how you divvy it up, right? It's hard to do. Because there's always so much more need than you have resources. We're 230 million now. I gotta tell you, the problem's the same. We never have enough money. So scarcity of resources is always an issue, but having more resources. But yeah, so the first startup was just putting some systems in place and process in place so we could efficiently give people answers to their requests and then get the money out the door. And we kind of did a good job of that, but honestly, we did the same thing 25 times, right? So 25 years, we did the same thing 25 times. Then, in probably about this point in the year, in 2019, I talked with Bob Rivers, who's the current CEO of Eastern, and I said, you know, there's so much we could be doing in HR, there's so much we could be doing in foundation. Trying to keep 2 feet on 2 skis going down the mountain, it's like this. Not gonna work. And so I said I really wanted to have the larger impact across more people in the foundation. So I presented to our board in July of 2019 this vision for what we could do in the community. I spent like 3 months working on it. And they loved it. You know, it was really focused on keeping our community donations in place. So a large number, like 1,500 grants per year across southern New Hampshire, all of eastern Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and down to the Cape. And they loved it. You know? And then 2 months later, we decided, you know what, we think we want to bring them in public. So it's like, yeah, put those on hold. I don't want to put them on hold. Come on, John's up. Everybody loved it. So what did I do? We did the IPO and we did these things. And then in November of 2020, we really ramped it up. And that, to me, is that point of second start, right? We really did a lot of research. We talked to a lot of nonprofits across the entirety of our footprint. We wanted to get on the ground what the needs were, what was being done, what foundations are out there now, what are they funding, how do they decide that. Turns out they don't really decide that in a lot of cases. It kind of happens. But that's okay. And it's just amazing how that works. But what we found was that Massachusetts, Boston area particularly, very philanthropic. A lot of people give money. But they give it to arts and cultural institutions, like Huntington, shout out, and others. They give it to colleges and universities, who are known for that, right? And they give it to hospitals, some of the best hospitals in the world. Only about 4% of all the philanthropy in Boston goes to change the systems that are in place that oppress people and keep people down, and does not allow us to have the kind of equity that we all believe in our hearts we should have. And so I said, well, somebody's got to do something about that, why not us? And we gave away about 12 million or more. In 2020, we gave away 22 million. COVID did all that plus our normal giving. So anywhere between 12 million and 22 million every year. So we're doing our part. And we also bring partners in. So that's why I say second startup, because we changed completely how we're doing this. Our larger grants are all around economic inclusion and mobility, around advancing equity for small businesses, for business of color, around access to credit, around access to capacity building programs that are really going to help, and access to procurement. This Tom. Right, here he is, up there. Tom's one of my partners in this, right? Tom and his team are partners with us through the Greater Boston Chamber Pacesetters program to have larger companies work with smaller BIPOC companies to help those BIPOC companies to get more contracts. So it's access to credit, access to contracts, access to credit, all of which are really important to grow the great business. So that's one of our 4 pillars. Next is enriching early childhood development. We know that 80% of a child's brain is developed by the age of 3. So that's a really good investment. If you can invest in a child and help them to be their best self by the age of 3, we're doing something. The third area for us is safe and secure housing, affordable housing. Affordable housing is a number of units, rental assistance, preventing homelessness, and helping domestic violence survivors to transition to safe housing and to a permanent residence where they can live their best life. The fourth area is workforce development. Workforce development for adults that leads to family-sustaining wages, not just a job, of which they might have to have 2 or 3 in order to be able to work.
Can you tell, so I know you did a big presentation to the board, but can you tell me how you got the whole company behind it?
Well, I'm a little passionate. It was really talking with people. We did a town hall presentation, which is a video presentation to our entire staff, and people get to ask questions at the end. We do this every month, just about every month. And so I presented there. I presented members of our teams. We went out and talked to a whole bunch of other funders to try and bring them in. Say, hey, it's a good idea. We need more people investing in racial justice and equity if we really want Boston to be as good as it can be. And so lots and lots of meetings.
I'm glad that I want to emphasize that because I think when you were talking about your career, you have to be passionate about it, right? And if you want to bring about change, you have to be on the bus. Those are words of wisdom that I hope our audience is gleaning from the conversation about, right? Having a true north, staying true to that, and also being people so crucial.
That is really true. You gotta stay grounded. And you have to have people in your life, like my job, that are gonna help you stay grounded. Because like when you're in philanthropy, a lot of people love you because you hand out checks. They don't love you because you're good. And necessarily, right? They might like what you're doing, but you know.
There's a funder right there.
She's like, I right there. That's why I got invited today.
So you have to stay grounded. The point is,
Yes.
you gotta stay grounded. You gotta not get too far ahead of yourself. And you also have to not lose confidence in what you're doing. It's a blend, right? And I think that if you can stay grounded and stay passionate about what are you trying to do? What's the impact you want to have? And I think that's true in philanthropy for sure. I also think it's true no matter what job. If you wake up in the morning and you go, oh God, I gotta go do X again. I really don't like doing X. And X is a big part of your job. Go find another job, right? Also, if you're in a job and you do a lot of X, whatever X is, and there isn't much more else to your job, you're gonna get stale. Find another job. Now, that could be within your own company. I'm not saying you have to leave. And it could be in your same role that you just add more stuff to, right? You go out and talk to people and say, how can I help you with this or that? Can I run an employee network? Can I be part of a club or a team or whatever it is that's your passion? Sorry, I'm not really seeing this. But make sure whatever is in your job, that there's a piece that's feeding you, feeding your heart, but a piece that's also helping you stretch and grow. Have got both sides.
Let's talk a little bit more about people who have helped you along the way. So what advice do you have for seeking out a mentor or sponsor that you can get to our audience? Why they're important to have in your career?
Does everybody know the difference between a mentor and a sponsor? Not really? You do? Okay.
I'll take a stab at it.
All right, great.
Mentor helps you, work with you one-on-one when you're in the room. Sponsor talks about you even when you're not there.
Very well done. Very well said. Yeah, that's exactly right. And you need both. The truth is, you need both. You need to have mentors who you can talk to very directly, very candidly, who are not necessarily in your direct line of reporting relationship. There are bosses who can also mentor, but there are not many. And there are a lot of people who would like to try to do that. It's not necessarily always in your best interest. Get a mentor who is not your direct boss. Now, sponsors. Get your boss, get your boss's boss, get your boss's boss's boss to be your sponsors. How do you do that? You volunteer to do things. What else can I do? I've done a good job at this. You've told me in my review I've done a great job. How else can I help you? How can I make your job easier? When you do that, you become noticed. When you become noticed, they're thinking about you more. When they're thinking about you more, when there's an opportunity, you're more likely to be considered. You're not going to get every single one. But you also may hear about things that others might not hear about that are of interest to you. Pursue it. Don't wait to be tapped. There are too many women in the workforce who really wait to be tapped. Well, they know who I am. They know what I can do. And if they want me, they know where I am. Don't do that to yourself. Make sure that people know what you want to do and that you're willing and able to do more of what you're doing or new things to be able to take advantage of that and to help them. A lot of bosses have a lot of stuff on their plate. If you can help them lighten their load, they're going to think they are really about that. So if you're looking for a sponsor, you want to talk to your boss's boss, or somebody at that level, if not them. Sometimes we don't always have the best boss. I realize that happens. But you can learn stuff from them too. What not to do most of them. But find somebody at a senior level. A lot of the times you can do that through employee networks. Many larger companies, mid-sized and larger companies, have employee networks of various types. You get to meet a lot of different people from across the organization, which can enrich what you're doing. And by joining that group, you already have an affinity. So if you're in, for us, the Women's Interest Network is our women's network across, or our Equality Under the Blue, which is our LGBT network. I go to those meetings, I talk to people all the time. So, most of them are on Zoom now, but before that, before the pandemic. But making those connections gives you opportunities to hear what's going on, to express what you're interested in, and try and connect with someone who's going to be willing to help you. I didn't catch your name over there. Vanessa. As Vanessa's thing, as Vanessa said, be willing to talk about you when you're not in a favorable way. Both of those are good.
So, and I also heard being proactive about your career, right?
It's your career. It's not your boss's career.
Correct. So you have to take ownership of every step of the way. That's right. And it's all about building relationships as well. I mean, you have to be competent skills, but there is that. But I think there is that point that you stressed is that there's a lot of people, a lot of community along the way that's helped you get to where you are, and you've given back to the community to achieve the mission of the foundation, which is to create an impact, especially with economic inclusion and racial justice. So thank you for sharing that. There's different types of learning, right? You learn from people, but I'm curious what books, magazine, podcasts, or techniques you would recommend to the audience to continue learning.
I'm a big reader, but at this point in my life, I don't have a lot of time to read, but I do books on tape, or Audible, audiobooks. And although I don't retain them as well as I would if I read the book, page by page, if you read a lot of those, because you can do a lot more of those driving from anywhere, right? Just keep learning, podcasts, actually don't do those, I should, but I just haven't gotten into that yet. But I read business reviews, I read a lot of McKinsey information, I read a lot of books, and books on tape, but I also have books on my nightstand, so I'm reading both. And just keep informing yourself, learning new information, and it's assimilating that into what you do. All of us need to learn more about other people's perspectives. And reading is a great way to do that, because you're hearing from the voice of the author. And so don't read people, or don't exclusively read people who look like you and with the same skills as you. Read from other people. Isabel Wilkerson is a tremendous writer, great writer. So I encourage you to read any of her books. Ibram Kendi, right here. He's got a bunch of really good books, and they're from the heart. And on the audio books, you hear he's reading. So when you hear him read his words, it really has a significant impact. So I encourage those as the ones I've read recently.
Thank you for sharing. So we talk about giving us some advice around learning with books, podcasts, etc., to help you stay creative and innovative in your work. I wonder on the flip side, what are some tips around how do you deal with stress? Because being a high-level executive, maybe I can speak for myself, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes to make this happen for yourself and for your staff and for the community that you serve. So what are you doing to help with your well-being?
I'm an avid gardener.
You are.
I love
to garden this one back.
Because the plants don't talk back. And they grow, and they change, and they have needs. So for me, I can have an impact on my area. And I also, I like to, I'm in between houses right now, so I don't have it right now. But before we were building, I had a big vegetable patch, and we would sell some of that to raise money for the local civic center. So, it's another way of connecting with people. I want to say, yes, reading is important, but also talking with other people who have different perspectives from you. I want to make sure I say that. Because often that's easier to do than spend the time in a book. But go talk to people you don't know. This is a great setting, right? Because people here you don't know. And, you know, has anybody heard of Colette Phillips? Yeah. So she runs Get Connected. And she has a rule that when you go to one of her events, you gotta meet 5 new people, like 5 new business friends. Whether you're at Colette's event or someplace else, and I encourage everybody in the room to go to Colette's events because they're amazing. But you should always look to talk to people you don't know. Because you're not gonna have that chance, you're always gonna have a chance to talk to people you do know, because you know them. So look for opportunities to talk with people and learn from people in a variety of ways that you don't know. So if you're someplace and you don't know people, don't be afraid of going over and talking to somebody. Because they're there too and they don't know everybody.
So, I think that's great advice. I would love to hear a little bit more about, you've been in the game for like 30 plus years.
Yeah, me and Dirk.
But as you look back and reflect back on your career, what's been the most exciting or rewarding part of your career so far? You can list several, doesn't have to be one, but what are you most proud of?
I would say I'm proud of the organization that we own at Eastern because I've been there for 28 years in a senior role, so I feel like we've built a company that cares a lot about people, cares a lot about the community, and does the right thing. It's high integrity, so I do feel very proud of that. I also feel very proud of my team. And my team over the long run, 28 years, I've had a lot of people work with me. And I've seen them grow and learn and start new things, go into different careers, some at Eastern and some elsewhere. But just to watch people blossom. It's very rewarding.
Just like your goal?
Just like my guys. Except those two talk about.
But they don't talk that. Correct. Do you have any funny experiences in the field?
Oh my God, yes.
That's
probably
which one is which one is appropriate for later. Okay, I'm sorry. Got it. I could ask you that afterwards. Okay.
I was in HR for.
I know. I'm sure
a lot of them.
I will ask you offline. I guess you can't raise your answer on that. Very curious. What common misconceptions about philanthropy would you like to dispel?
It's not easy giving away money, right, Kelly? It's very hard to give it to the right people who are going to have an impact that you want to have. Because it's not about what you want, it's not what they're doing. You can only support them in their efforts as a nonprofit. So you have to have a community of nonprofits that are interested in the work that you want to do. And find those intersections, and then not just get a check and walk away. Like, what good is that? How do we work together to remove barriers from that nonprofit? There's something in the way of them being able to do it. What do they need? And it could be volunteers, it could just be coaching. I coach a lot of nonprofit leaders, simply because I've been around for a long time, and I've managed people for a long time. And I've had a lot of difficult conversations. So, working with them, helping them to figure out how to staff the role. How many people work in nonprofits here? Is it easy to hire right now? No. Right. So what do? Right? You gotta hire. What are you gonna do? So
I think that's a good one. On the nonprofit side, I think it's always good for funders to share with folks on this side of the table, like how they feel about it, right? You keep stressing as we talk the importance of relationship building.
yes.
Whether it's for your personal life or for your professional life, the importance of making ties and connections and putting that in your So I hope that as people are listening, that maybe you can think about ways that you can maybe sending an email or text to say, hello, how are you doing? Funders are humans too. So I want to stress that too, because I think that indirectly, that is what Nancy's saying.
So absolutely.
I'm just gonna go over.
And we don't bite either, you know. So yeah, it's no matter what role you're in, and no matter what level of the organization you're at, relationship building is critical. It's to get a mentoring relationship, a sponsorship, a champion relationship, as colleagues, as members of the team, as members of the department, as a company, an employee network, a PTO, youth lacrosse, whatever, right? It's all about relationship. And so investing your time in building relationships is a huge, valuable investment. You're going to get much in return. So I couldn't agree with you more.
What's one thing you wish you had known when you started your career?
That's a good question. It took me a little, I know it doesn't seem like that now, but remember, I've been doing this for 42 years now, so. But in the beginning, I thought my good work would talk for itself. I thought that by doing a lot of really good work, that would be all I needed to do. And I felt like, well, they know where I am. If they want to promote me, I'm right here. They can come get me. I wish I had known early on that that wasn't how it works. I'm very happy with the trajectory of my career. And we were talking earlier over dinner about how important it is to have different work experiences and how you can pull from each of those work experiences, the good and the bad, in ways that help you later on in your career. But you really do need to be your chief advocate. And I guess the other piece of advice to that is build your own board of directors. Find people, whether they're mentors or champions or just people you talk to on, once a quarter or something. So have lunch with somebody. Most senior officers will actually do that. And a lot of people, especially women, unfortunately, are kind of afraid. Why would she have lunch with me? I eat lunch. I eat lunch.
She's human. She is.
I'll even buy. But building that board of directors helps you to have sounding boards in various, and don't get them all the same. There's huge value to diversity in everything you do. And so having a diverse board of directors, people that you can sound off with, is very, very, very helpful. Because they also will help talk to others about you. So if you've got a board of directors of people, by that I mean, like 10 people, 6 to 10 people that you can talk to about something you're working on. And maybe get some insights. Or at least tell them what you're doing. It's also at a minimum.
So before we move on to audience questions, we're going to do a few one-word rapid-fire questions so the audience can get to know you better. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Who's your hero?
Oh, man. I have a board of directors of heroes. I really do. People like Frederick Douglass and Rosa Parks and Harriet Tubman, who, if I could talk to one person who's passed, I really want to be a Harriet Tubman. I want to know how she did that. And Hillary Clinton. It would be really interesting to talk to her on so many levels. I don't really have one person. I have pieces of people that I really admire. Mother Teresa, same thing. I would love to have a chance to learn from her. So it's really more admiring characteristics of people than being
See them through your work.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up on Long Island. Oh, my Long Islander. I grew up in Northport, which is the North Shore of Long Island, New York.
What's your go-to pastime regarding government? And what's something that you would like to learn more about?
Everything. I am intensely curious. Just ask my team. I don't know.
Hobby you always wanted to pick up? What about a hobby you always wanted to pick up?
I wish I could play sports again. I really kind of asked me. Like COVID-19 got in the way.
Never too late to start gymnastics.
Yeah, yeah.
Mental gymnastics.
Well, philanthropy is mental gymnastics.
And how would you describe yourself in one word? What would you go back to?
I would say I'm a force.
I love that. I love that. You are.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Nancy?
Hi, I'm Marjorie O'Malley from Massart. Nancy, I'm so impressed with the way in which you operate your foundation. You are very accessible, provide great candid feedback, and we are so grateful. One of the things that I've always wondered is how does a foundation like yours say to an organization, we really like what you're doing, so we're going to take it from a modest donation to a multi-year significant gift because we know that you have the capacity to deliver for us. What is your thought process?
So we do about 1,500 grants a year. Only about 70 or 75 or so of those are our big grants, our what we call impact grants, which are generally 50,000 to 150,000. Those are our big grants. Our community donations are on average 3,000 to 4,000, but they can range from $100 to as much as 25,000. We generally will start lower with an organization, and just to get to know you. Sometimes one of our employees will be on your board or volunteer at your organization. And we rely a lot on our employees to inform us about nonprofits. So they're our eyes and ears in their field. And so we learn about your organization, we hear what your strategic mission is. We look at your strategic mission in light of our strategy and our pillars. And one of the hard parts about philanthropy is staying focused on the things that you've said is important. Because there's a lot of good stuff going on in this community. But if you sway too far for too many things, then you're really going to lose your ability to have an impact on the things that you've chosen to do. So where there's alignment between that organization and our mission, then we'll have conversations. We have what I call foundation fellows. I stole that term from Google. Anybody work for Google? A senior technologist at Google is called a fellow. And their job as a fellow, as a Google fellow, is to take their expertise, because they're the most expert in given technology, to take that knowledge and share it across the company. So I stole that term because I think that I didn't steal it from Harvard, right? They're not like Harvard fellows. These are like Google fellows. These are experts in the field. And they're there not just to award grants, although they help you do that, but it's also to provide expertise and to help in removing barriers for that nonprofit. And so we look for ways where we can partner with that organization. When we find that, then we do go out and do that. So that's how we kind of tend to see it grow.
Any other questions? Oh, sorry. Was it yes?
I still run. I still wait. I'm doing something.
She asked me.
Sure, mine was just a little nerdy question about the data point around 4% of philanthropic dollars moving to organizations working towards structural change.
In those 4 areas.
Oh, in those 4 areas. And does that mean an organization solely devoted to structural change, or does it include organizations that have advocacy, programmatic
I think it's
advocacy?
primarily that it's their main focus. I'd have to go back and look, that was 2019, we did that research. but it was like the main of what I'm doing. It's not a lot, especially since 2020 forward, thankfully, many organizations have started to on their own journey of equity. That's a good thing. But there were a lot of them who were already doing a lot of good work.
I have a board meeting on Monday, and it's down.
Sure.
So Nancy, thank you so much for being here. But when you say no, how does that make you feel to offer recommendations to?
We are always willing to speak with a nonprofit, and we have to say no a lot, unfortunately. We try to say no as least often as possible. We try to say yes as often as possible. Let's put that. And but there are times when we have to say we can't fund you now. There are also times when we say we love this piece of what you're talking about, but you're not in where you're not aligned sufficiently with us. But if you did this, then that would be more aligned. So we often have conversations like that. Somebody said we had candid conversations with organizations. We do that all the time because we know that it's hard work in nonprofit. I'm on a lot of boards. I know what our people in nonprofits have to do. So if nobody wants people writing grant requests that aren't going to be on, that's just a waste of everyone's. So we really want to work with our partners too. And sometimes we'll do that anyway, right? Sometimes we may fund it, but it's like, well, yeah, and make sure that this is going to low and moderate income people, or something like that. Keep it going on.
That's the last question for this. Nancy's here afterwards. I'm going to talk to you. But, Nancy, thank you so much for. It was an honor to have this discussion with you. And thank you so much for sharing lots of words of wisdom that on this Women's Day, National Women's Day, I think many women really appreciate. I took from you not to be fearless. So I think it's a great reminder for everyone in this group that no matter what's going on,
Don't live fearful of that.
Yeah, and be a force.
Be a force.
Thank you, Nancy.